Imagine just for a second a world with no fuel, no gasoline. The streets out there would look very different, at least in the number of cars out there. Now imagine a world with no heating oil. In winter, places like Vilnius and Seattle would be very tricky, especially in buildings like this one that use it to warm things up. And think about a world with no plastics. And yes, cell phones, routers, speakers, all contain plastic. The oil industry had it right a few years ago. They said it. The world runs on us. And they were right. However, the world has been changing. Think about it. What do you do every morning when you're getting ready to go to work or to go to school? What do? I check to make sure that I have my wallet on me. But before doing that, I make sure that I have my cell phone with me. And that's because we need data. We crave for data. It just makes us much more efficient. Hi everyone. Again, my name is David Gorena. I'm a PM lead at Microsoft. I work in the Office Intelligence organization. And today I'm going to be talking about data. I'm going to be talking about how to represent this data in knowledge graphs and how to add a layer of intelligence to make scenarios that make people more efficient every day. I'm going to be telling you with numbers why organizations that understand this are going to be able to go much faster and they're going to be able to be much more efficient. I'm going to tell you why enterprises that don't understand this are just going to fail. So let's get started with a few numbers, the reality of modern work. What has been happening? 15 years ago, I used to work in a product in Microsoft called Visual Studio. I was working with a team of around 9 or 10 people, and we were working on features that would ship every 1.5 or 2 years. Fast track that 15 years, and I'm working in Office with more than 70 people every week in more than 7 different projects. So data from the industry tells us exactly this. People are working in at least twice as many teams as they were working on a few years ago. What is this generating? This is generating tons of data. Just think about the number of messages between all these people. Think about the number of documents, Word documents being created, the number of specs, the number of PowerPoint decks. This is just too much information to handle. And the other thing that we're getting from the industry is that a large percentage of knowledge workers are not able to find this data. And I can think about horror scenarios in my organization where I'm in a meeting with execs, I'm showing a PowerPoint deck, and suddenly my manager tells me like, hey David, close that deck and bring that one that we were talking about last week. What should be a very simple scenario is suddenly very difficult to do. I cannot find that deck that we were looking at a week before. I also like to think about the analogy that has been happening with search and the enterprise, the consumer search and the enterprise. So think about search 15 or 20 years ago. You were looking for your favorite soccer team in the internet, and you would get a bunch of blue links. If you were lucky enough, you would get the official web page of your team at the very top. Fast track that to today, there are very nice experiences for this kind of stuff. If your team is playing, you'll get a nice experience with live results. But the enterprise hasn't changed. In the enterprise, we are where we were 15 or 20 years ago. We have a bunch of blue links, and we cannot find stuff. what happened in the consumer search that solved this problem? Number one, it was having the data. Number two it was being able to represent this data in a way in which it was searchable. Knowledge graphs. And number three, it was a layer of intelligence that we were able to put on top of that to create the experiences that exist today. How do we solve the enterprise problem? Exactly the same. And I'm going to show you how in the next few slides. Now, with the enterprise, there's security. Because when we think about consumer search, this is data available everywhere. But in the enterprise, it's your organizations and your private data. So we have to make sure that whatever solution we come up with is compliant, is safe, and is secure. And again, we're going to be talking about some of these challenges in the next few slides. So, is data and knowledge graphs enough to power these intelligence scenarios? I'm going to say no. We need artificial intelligence. What is artificial intelligence? In a nutshell, it is technology that can perceive, learn, and reason, extending the capabilities of human beings and their organizations. What's an example of this? This is where I like to tell my story, a story that happened to me around 2 years ago. So I was in my hometown in Seattle in the United States, and I was sleeping. And then in the middle of the night, suddenly, my home security system triggered an alarm. I'm obviously freaking out. One of the good things about my home security system is that it's connected to the internet. So I can pull my phone and connect to it. And I can see that there was motion detected in the living room. And I can turn my alarm on and off right from my cell phone. It's not a very good idea to turn it off if I don't know what's happening downstairs, especially when I have other people living with me in the second floor. So this is where I'm honest. I went to my closet, and the first thing that I found, which was a baseball bat, and I started walking slowly downstairs. The good news is that there was no human being downstairs. The bad news is that that day I found out that my home security system was not intelligent. What had triggered it was a balloon. A balloon that my daughters had left in the living room the night before. If my home security system had been intelligent, it should have been able to perceive the difference between an object, a balloon, and a human being. It should have been able to learn stuff, like I go to sleep at night, and that's where you're paying attention. I go downstairs for a glass of water every morning, and you can detect my face, and you can detect the faces of my family members. And the home security system should have been able to reason. Objects, human beings, animals. So that was a failed attempt at artificial intelligence. Now I'm going to show you a successful attempt of it. So a few years back, I worked in the Bing organization at Microsoft, and my job was to make sure that we were infusing public knowledge, public data into enterprise products like Excel. The video that I'm going to show next shows exactly that. So we're taking data from the Bing knowledge graph. Again, it's represented in a knowledge graph, and we're pushing it to a product like Excel. And we're putting a layer of intelligence on top of it to make it smart. Now, piece of warning, my team is an engineering team at Microsoft. We're not good at creating videos. This video was created by the marketing team. So I don't want you to focus on the marketing pieces of it, focus on the technology, and we'll talk about it in a few minutes.
You ready to lose? We'll find out. All right. Capitals. All 50 states. All right, all done. What? You did all 50? I've only done Alabama. Yeah, all done. You all done with what? I'm literally on the first one, so just double check everything here. Okay, we are all done. No way. I don't know how you're doing it, but can't tell you all my secrets, man. How's it going over there?
So this is a simple example, but that's exactly what we're doing. We're taking data from the Bing Knowledge Graph, we're pushing it into Excel, and we're using the capabilities of a spreadsheet to just pull the different properties from the entities that we're being able to convert. So this is just text in Excel with a click of a button. We bring intelligence to it. We convert everything into entities. We're going to be talking about entities in a bit. These entities contain properties, and that's how you can pull them to the different cells really fast in Excel. This feature is called data types. We shipped around a year and a half ago, and we support things like countries, cities, states, and also financial information. So one of the things that might not be very clear in this video is the real intelligence behind this feature. So if we had the spreadsheet and we have two tables, one table with countries, and we have China, the text China in it, and in the same spreadsheet we have another table with Mexican municipalities, and we have the word China in it. Once we select this and convert, the China in the country list is going to be converted into China the country, of course. The other China is going to be converted into a Mexican municipality called China. How can we do this? Well, it's because of the way the data is represented in the knowledge graph. We have nodes, country nodes together. We can recognize that these are all countries, and then we can drill into one of these nodes, in this case Mexico, and find that there are other nodes, municipalities together, and that's how we can recognize and convert to the right thing. So let's talk a little bit about artificial intelligence numbers for those that like numbers. What we're seeing in the industry is that 95% of customer interactions will be powered by some sort of AI bot by year 2025. We're starting to see this trend as service companies who have their website. You can go to these websites and you can go and ask questions, and it's not a human being on the other side answering questions for you. It's really a bot, an automated bot that's answering these questions. 75% of apps will have some sort of intelligence by the end of this year. Again, not surprising. Pretty much any app that you use today has some sort of intelligence, especially if it has features like search in it that have some sort of intelligence or personalization to it. 30% of search results will be powered by voice by the end of 2020. Again, a trend that we are seeing, people asking their phones while driving, people asking their cars, or people having speakers in their living room and just asking for stuff and getting results. And I like the last one because it makes a big point in my presentation today. 20 billion devices connected to the internet by year 2020. So I'm a single person in this room, and I have a cell phone, I have a smartwatch, and I have a laptop. All things connected to the internet, all things generating a lot of data every day, every minute. And why now? Why are we talking about artificial intelligence now and not 20 or 30 years ago when we already had powerful calculators? Well, the first thing is what I just mentioned. It's data. There's tons of data flowing out there. 20 or 30 years ago, we didn't have this amount of data flowing around for every individual in a room like this. So we didn't need the powerful algorithms to handle these amounts of data and to be able to train on these amounts of data. And we didn't need computing to handle these powerful algorithms and this huge amount of data. Plus, it was expensive. Having computers was expensive. Now, it's not only way cheaper, but it's scalable with the power of the cloud. So we can see how this is just like an ideal environment for artificial intelligence today. And how do we think about the knowledge graph at Microsoft? A very simplistic way to think about this is a bunch of nodes connecting to each other. So in the case of Bing that we were talking about, you can think about things such as cities, songs, videos, famous people, and you can see how a famous people can be connected to a movie because he was part of a movie, and these famous people like specific songs, so you can see how everything is connected to each other. In the enterprise, we see the nodes as emails, documents, specs, and people themselves. And you can see how everything connects to each other. How is knowledge represented in products? Again, a very simplistic way to see this is in products like Bing.com. If you go and search for a city like London, you are going to see what we call an entity pane showing up in the right side of the results. This entity pane contains the results for the entity, in this case London, and this entity has properties. Properties like population, like time zone, or whatnot. And then when you search for things like this, you'll see at the bottom that we will display things like London is related to other cities, and not only that, we can tell you things such as people that have been searching for London also search for these other cities, X, Y, or Z. Again, how can we do this? Because of the graph. We have the nodes connected to each other, and we are basically getting all this telemetry and all this information from what people are doing in the web. So basically, knowledge has been powering search engines for the last few years. And what are some of the challenges in knowledge graphs like the one in Bing? The first one is coverage. We call it coverage. So if you are claiming that you know about the world, you have to make sure that you're ingesting data about everything into your knowledge graph. This is famous people, this is songs, videos, animals, flights, or whatnot. The second challenge is that we have to make sure that this data is correct. If we're ingesting data about a particular person into the knowledge graph, and this data is coming from 20 different websites, 10 of the websites are saying that this person is 20 years old, and the other 10 are saying that he's 21, the knowledge graph has to be able to cope with all of this and make sure that it chooses the best answer, the real answer, the correct answer. A third challenge is freshness. So I was traveling here 2 days ago, and my flight was delayed. The knowledge graph has to be able to cope with this, because flights are being delayed, flights are being canceled every second, people are being born, and people die as well. So we have to make sure that we're coping with all these things very fast. The screenshots that you're seeing here just make another point of how complex a knowledge graph can be. If you go to Wikipedia today and search for Will Smith, you will see that there are hundreds of Will Smiths out there. When we show the experience in Bing for a particular Will Smith, in this case the American actor, you'll notice that the entity pane for this particular Will Smith is basically put together from 41 different websites. And we have to make sure that this data is all correct and is all fresh coming from the different websites. At a super high level, how do you build a knowledge graph like this? Well, step number one, you have to make sure that you're ingesting all this data from the different websites. Step number two, you have to make sure that you're combining all these data from the different sources into the right entities. So again, there's hundreds of Will Smiths. You have to make sure that you're combining the right stuff for the right Will Smith. And then step number 3 is creating all those rankings and relationships between the persons, the people, the songs, the videos, how they interact with each other. And the final step is to publish and serve this data into experiences like the one we saw in Excel. Now, knowledge and artificial intelligence, do they have to go together? Yes, they have to go together. Let's go back to the example of the home security system that I talked about earlier today. And let's assume for a second that my home security system is now intelligent. It's smart. I should be able to tell my home security system, hey, home security system, when you see my cat wandering around in my living room, don't trigger the alarm. My cat is part of my family. So the fact that my voice is translated into text that the powerful algorithms can use, that's what AI will be able to do. But if the home security system does not know what a cat is, then the scenario is just going to fail. And most important, if my home security system doesn't know the difference between my cat and the millions of cats out there, then again, the scenario is not going to work. The largest graph of human activity at work ever created. This is what I'm working on today. I'm in the Office Intelligence Group. I've been talking about Bing, a consumer graph. It has its own challenges, but now we bring the data from the public graph and we combine it from the data that you are using, that you are generating every day in your organization, in your enterprise. The billions of emails that are being processed every month. The millions of PowerPoint decks that are being generated every month. And then we bring the knowledge graph from LinkedIn, from Dynamics, and all the other knowledge graphs that we have at Microsoft to create this powerful, and again, the largest graph ever created. The challenges are a bit different here because we are dealing with data from the organization. It's private data. So things like being able to see the data, we can't. A human being cannot go and see the data that's being generated. We need algorithms, we need machine learning to go in, make assumptions, and iterate over this data. But in a nutshell, the being able to create those experiences that exist in Bing today are possible in the enterprise because we have the data, because this data is being represented in the knowledge graphs that I just described, and because we can put that layer of intelligence on top of it to be able to answer questions for you. So that's exactly what we're trying to do at Microsoft with Enterprise Search. Our vision, what we want to create, is called Microsoft Search. I'm going to show you a video, and many of the things that are being shown in the next video are things that we announced a couple weeks back at a big event that happened in Florida in the US. It's called Ignite, and many of the things here were just announced. So let's look at the video and we'll talk more about it in a minute. The idea behind Microsoft Search is basic, is simple. If I'm searching for something in my organization, just give me the answer. And we want to make sure that we make this experience consistent across Microsoft products, across Office products. How are we doing things like the ones that we saw? We saw acronyms. If I'm searching for an organizational acronym, this is not something that I'm going to be able to find in public search because it only exists in my company. We're mining documents, emails, calendars that you have access to. You might not have opened any of these documents, but you have access to them. And if we find an expansion to an acronym that you're looking for, we're going to be able to serve it right there as a nice answer. If I'm searching for experts in my organization, a particular expert that's working on project X, well, we know who are the people that are working on these projects because they're creating specs, they're creating PowerPoint decks. So we can give you a very nice answer, showing you the people, telling you why we are showing these people, and making it very easy for you to go and connect with these folks. So again, it's solving the search problem and making it consistent across the different products. Now, the artificial intelligence portfolio has other components to it. I'm going to quickly go through these. One of them is an agent. It's Cortana. One of the things that we are doing in Office today is bringing this assistant into your work every day. Cortana knows about the world, about the stuff that we just discussed in Bing, but it also knows about your work, and it knows about you. And like any other artificial intelligence component, this is going to learn with time. So your experience with Cortana in day 0 is going to be different from your day 30, day 90, because it's learning every day. At Ignite a couple weeks back, we announced a feature called Play My Emails. The idea behind this is that you are driving to work and you go, hey Cortana, read my emails, and in a very nice way, Cortana will read and will allow you to reply to these different threads in a very easy way. But what are the other kinds of things that you can do with this assistant? Well, if you're going in a business trip, you should be able to tell Cortana, hey, make sure my home security system is on while I'm on a trip. And since Cortana knows about your work calendar and also knows about your intelligent home security system, she can just work things out for you and just make it work. Cortana is also looking at your emails. Again, there's no human being looking at your emails. This is technology. This is algorithms that learn from the things that you're typing every day. They make sense of it. And they're able, and with this technology, Cortana is basically able to tell you things like, you made a commitment the other day, make sure that you follow up on this. And Cortana also knows about the world, knows about your calendar, so if you have a business trip, she's able to tell you this is your latest about the flight that you're going to be taking. This is the latest in terms of temperature in the destination. And since she also knows about you, she can tell you recommendations of restaurants or whatnot. And we also have the LinkedIn graph. So if there's going to be people in that particular conference that you've interacted with before, Cortana can also tell you about these people. She can remind you about meetings that you've had with these people in the past or emails that you've interacted with them on. So that's the agent. Applications, we've talked a little bit about this. The example of data types in Excel was a video that I showed earlier today. Again, this works for things like cities, countries, states, and financial instruments like stocks and bonds. There's other products like My Analytics. The idea behind My Analytics, imagine that you receive an email, or the leadership in the organization receives an email saying, hey, this is what your company or your organization is working on. These are the different projects, and this is how people are spending the time on these projects. It could be in meetings, emails, or whatnot. And again, we're able to tell this based on the mining that we're doing in the different enterprise artifacts every day. And then there's non-office products as well, in which we are also infusing artificial intelligence. This example right here is a customer service and support. Imagine a human being dealing with another human being, asking questions, giving responses, and there's an automated bot helping the customer representative using data from the past, using historical data, and learning from the present conversation, so that the human being has the best tools to be able to help the people on the other side of the phone. And again, with an automated bot that's just learning and giving extra details. And then there's services as well. If you're a developer and you want to plug the intelligence that I've been talking about, you can do this with APIs. There's cognitive services and a bot framework that's available for you. Cognitive services, well, they're just REST APIs. They're pretty simple to use, and they're flexible. You can write in the platform and the language of your choice. Have been thoroughly tested by Microsoft. And what are the kinds of things that you can do with this? Again, let's go back to the home security system example. If I wanted to infuse my system with vision, being able to perceive the difference between an object and a human being, human faces, that's the API that I would use. If I want my home security system to understand what I'm saying, then that's the speech API that I would use. The language API, if I want my home security system to understand not only English, but Spanish and French, that's the API that I would use. And then the knowledge and search APIs, that's to bring the data of the public knowledge graph into your applications. So your applications, the home security system knowing about a cat versus a balloon or whatnot, this is the API that we would basically use. Then we have the bot framework. So again, we talked about numbers earlier today. This is what many companies are relying on, especially for quick Q&A in their websites. You can use a bot to just pull the information from your website and be able to answer questions from people. And the kinds of things that you can do with this framework, well, first of all, is provide information. This would be the example of the Q&A. But the bots can also perform tasks. So imagine scenarios where a bot can schedule appointments with your customers. They can make recommendations based on things that you know that we have in your website and what people are asking for. And they can also capture information, so simple scenarios as well. And then we have infrastructure. So again, we talked about it today. Computing is cheap, it's scalable. The way Microsoft offers this is through Azure. I won't go into details today, just for the sake of time. But let's try to summarize what I've been saying today. So basically, the oil industry said it, and they said it right a few years ago. The world runs on us. But the fact is that the world has been changing. We need data. Data is the new oil. And the way that we did it for consumers, we can do it for the enterprise. Because we have data, because we can represent this data into knowledge graphs, and we can put a layer of artificial intelligence into it. In Microsoft, the vision and the product is called Microsoft Search. And we believe that with Microsoft Search, we're going to go and solve the data problems that I presented here, where people are generating a lot of data. They're working with many more teams today than they were a few years ago. And Microsoft Search is going to be able to pull this data together in a way where we can just represent it and give it to people in easy answers, just like it happens in consumer search today. So The main takeaway for everyone that I want everyone to take is that organizations, just because of this data, organizations that don't understand this, they're basically going to go slower. Again, there's much more data. There's solutions. There are going to be solutions that bring this data and give it to people in an easy way. Organizations that don't understand this, they're just going to go slower, and eventually they're going to die. If you're a developer, there's ways for you to use APIs. They don't have to be Microsoft APIs, but there's APIs to bring intelligence into your applications and make it really easy for you to bring this amount of information to the people when they're asking for it. So think about how you bring this intelligence, and think about how you use products such as Microsoft Search or others out there that are just going to make your organization go faster, more smooth, and much more efficient. So with this, I want to thank you all and have a great rest of your conference. Thank you very much.